Welcome back to Miss K's Art Adventures. Today we're going to be painting, which is one of my favorite things to do in art. And we're going to be making a small painting on a canvas board with watercolors. It's going to be a patriotic scene with a silhouette of a landscape. Now, patriotic means, can you guess? That's right, it's one's love for his or her country. And we live in the United States of America, and so I love my country, and I am patriotic because I have respect for our freedom, and I'm glad we live in a free country, and there's so much that goes into that, and our military really does a lot to keep our country safe and free. This is the type of painting we're going to be doing. Now, a silhouette means that the trees and the ground and most of the scene is black because it's at nighttime. And if you look closely, it looks like there are stars in the sky and red and white stripes, and then a reflection in the water. So we're going to learn how to paint this picture, and you're going to get a white canvas board. And you can see how I've already kind of penciled in my sketch. You don't even really have to do that part of it, but I did give it just a little bit of a light sketch just to get me started. And so you would just do that with your pencil very lightly because you don't want the pencil, which is this dark gray color, to show through your painting. And we will be painting it today. So I would like for you to think about your paints, your paint brushes, and your water cup and how to treat the paint brushes. So how do we use the paintbrush? That's right, ballerina toes. So whenever you're using the paintbrush, think of it as a very graceful ballerina or a ballet dancer. And so your bristles should always stay very put together like this, not like an old toothbrush. You don't want them to be spread out and messed up. So when you take your paintbrush out of the water, you're just gonna wipe it on the edge of the cup just a couple times, and that should do the trick. You have these paints or something similar. If it's the tempera cakes, they're the larger ones, and I use those a lot also. But when you go into your paint with a clean paintbrush, you're just going to use ballerina toes like this, okay? You're not pushing down really hard. That's important so we can take good care of our paints. And what do we do when we need to choose a new color? That's right. We dip our paintbrush into the cup, and you might have a see-through cup and you might not, but if the water changes color like this, that's completely normal. And you'll see that happen. It's fine. You don't have to get up and change it all the time until it gets really, really dirty. So like between classes and things is when I change the water usually. You don't really need to change it right now. Okay, so you're gonna choose a paintbrush that is a little bit larger. So it can be medium sized or a little bit larger one. The smaller one we will use later. And I'm gonna pan down to my work surface so that we can all see. And you're gonna do what I do. So this is guided painting. So of course you're gonna write your name on the back. So this is a thick thing, and it has just a white back, and it's a different look. The canvas is the one that looks a little bit bumpy. This is the side we're using for our painting. Okay, remember not to tap on your cup or splash on anyone else's picture because they might get really upset if you do that, and it's hard to fix. So the very first thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna put down the color blue. And so with ballerina toes, you're going to go into your paint, and we're going to put that down in the top left corner area of our picture. And that's probably about 4 finger widths wide on the top left corner. You don't want to go too far down because this is going to be the part where our stars, which we're going to do in white later, that'll be the last thing we do. That's where they're going to be. Now, if you think of the shape of an American flag and you remember what it looks like, the blue section with the stars is in the upper left, and then a bigger section is the red and white stripes. So how many stripes are there on an American flag? You guessed it, there's 13. Every other stripe is red and white. And how many stars are there on an American flag? You don't have to sit and count those, and I don't even have exactly the right number, but there are 50 stars because they represent the 50 states of the United States of America. Now, we're not going to try to get exactly 50 stars because it's a starry night and it's just for the effect of the stars, okay? So, let's continue. Now that we have this painted blue, where the stars are going to be in sort of a square shape. Then we're going to stop with the blue, and we're not going to worry about that section. We can always go back and do more, but as long as you have it, we're going to leave that alone for now. And the next thing we're going to think about is the ground. So we're going to come back to the back to the stripes in just a minute and back to the stars. So I would like for you to get your medium-sized paintbrush, and you're going to rinse it. If you used that for your blue, you're going to rinse it off. And then ballerina toes, we're going to go into our black paint. And so you might have the big chunky paints, or you might have the small watercolors. I use those both because they are both used with water. Now we're going to paint a silhouetted landscape right down here. So we're just going to come up with sort of a wavy line. When I say come up, I mean just touching the blue but not going too far up, and under the blue section. Okay, notice that your paint does run, so I would suggest not lifting your canvas up like I am. Keep it flat. I'm just doing this to show you, and I made sure that most of my water was off of my paintbrush before I did that. And so this is pretty simple because we're just going to paint all the way down to the bottom. And we're going to go really light, so it's even going to look kind of grayish. Okay, now under that blue section is where the largest part of the silhouette of the land will be. We're going to come over to the side that is white above where our stripes are going to be later, and we're going to do sort of just a heel, and we're going to paint that section black as well. There's something called layering when you paint, and because watercolors are transparent, meaning that you can see through them, you could do layers of paint, either of the same color or of another color on top of that color. And that's what layering is. If you blend the two colors together, then it's called blending when you're painting, blending colors. But if you change colors, remember, go back into your water cup, rinse it off, wipe it on the edge of the cup, and even if it's dripping kind of a dark color, you can tell if your paintbrush is getting clean. Okay, you'll get used to that. Okay, so now we have the blue section and you've painted this part black. And I'm going slow to give you time to catch up. You want to think of this as a sky area where things are not perfectly straight. So if you look at this one once again, the sky doesn't have ruler straight lines because I didn't want it to. I wanted it to look very much more like a sky with the reflection in the water. And the trees are silhouettes again. And we're going to put a few more details on the land later. There are times when you have to let your painting dry before you can do any more work on it. And so we'll be talking about that as well. So it will take more than one class period, and that's okay. Now we're going to go up into the sky area just with a little sliver of blue across the rest of the top. When I say just a little sliver, that's what I mean. Just like that. So not wide at all. And then rinse your paintbrush because we're going to switch colors. So that's what you want to get used to doing as an artist and a painter, is rinsing your paintbrush and not tapping, but just wiping it off on the edge. Okay, then we're going to go into the color red with ballerina toes. The paint shouldn't really be changing. It shouldn't be changing in color. It should still be in good shape where you can see all the colors clearly. Now remember, we're not trying to make real straight lines, so you can even let that red, the first red stripe, go into the blue. Not too thick, just about the width of the tip of your paintbrush. Maybe if you're using it, you know, a little bit on the side if it's a small paintbrush. If you're using a bigger paintbrush, definitely just use the tip of the brush to make that line. So that's the first stripe. Now we said there were 13 stripes and 50 stars, so keep that in mind. And we want every other one to be white. So the next one, we're gonna leave it white. Okay, well, how do you do that? You just don't paint anything for the next stripe, which is white. So we're gonna skip a little space that looks about as big as the red stripe, and we're gonna paint our next one. Now I'm gonna put my canvas board flat down so that nothing will drip. And yes, you can go over it a couple of times, because where your paper might get a hole in it or your paper might rip if you put too much wet paint like this canvas will not, because it is thick and it's canvas. Okay, so I have 2 stripes. Now we have to budget our space, which means think about how many of these we can fit. So far I'm going to count this top one as 1, even though that's a little blue sliver, because we're going to go back and make that a little bit of a white area later. I'll tell you how and I'll tell you why. But for now, we're going to say this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have 4 things. 1, 2, 3, 4. That includes the white one. And we're going to skip a space, so that'll be the 5th one. And we're going to put the 6th stripe, which is a red one. So I skipped every other one and left it white. That little bit of blue at the top we will go back to later. That's just so that it doesn't look like we just forgot something. It's going to be a little bit mottled in with the blue of the sky. And then we're going to skip and do white again, and then we're going to go to what? Red, exactly. Now again, I am holding mine up so you can see it a little bit better, but you keep yours flat so nothing drips. This is very easy for the paint to drip, and then we're like, oh no, what do I do now? There are ways to fix it, but let's try not to make it drip. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total stripes without even having to paint anything in the white spaces. Now, I'm not going to worry if I have a total of 13, because this is going to be in the night sky, remember? And so some of this will go back behind our trees that we're going to paint later. So I'm going to skip, and what color is next? White, and then what? Red, exactly. So we're doing every other one: red, white, red, white, red, white, red, white, red, white. Good. Okay, now because this is at night, we're going to make our water a dark blue. So now you're going to clean your brush or pick up another brush of the larger size if you have one. And we're gonna go back into our water, skipping this little part right here, which is gonna be showing the land. Okay, so we're under our blue section where the stars will be. We're gonna skip a little bit of the black, okay, and then we're gonna go and we're gonna do blue for water. Now, yes, I know we painted that black before, but that's just gonna make our water show up a darker blue, which is good. So what happens when you mix blue with lightly painted black? Darker blue. Good, so we've got a darker blue in the water. And we're gonna paint it just to about right there. So kind of under the striped area and a little bit more, and leave the rest of this regular dark black. It's not dark yet, but it will be, because we have to let layers, remember, we're layering, so we have to let certain layers dry. Good. Great job. Take the time to rinse your paintbrush. Do you know any patriotic songs? I'm sure you do. You've learned those in music. Okay, so far we've got a lot done, because this is our painting and this is what we're trying to go for. So what are we missing? That's right, we're missing the trees, and we're missing the stripes and stars in the water, and we're missing the stars. Now we're gonna add our trees next. So you're gonna pick up your brush, and we're gonna make some skinny tree trunk lines first before we do the whole tree. So we're gonna start right over here in the land. So remember, the black part is the land. And I'm just gonna go over my land first before I do my tree to make it a little bit darker, because it's had a minute or two to dry. See how that makes it darker? See the difference? This is darker than that. And I'm gonna go ahead and paint my land under my stripes, not over my stripes, but under them. And I'm gonna just go down into a curve right here. Curve of the black. Who remembers the word silhouette and what does it mean? Can you tell me? Yeah, so it is when it is dark and you're seeing the shape of something, but it looks black because of it being dark with the lack of light. Good. Okay, so now that you have your land, see the shape of the land? And imagine again that this is the sky and this is the water. And it's all going to come together. And it'll be very nice. So rinse your paintbrush again. And we're going to, and it may just be that you need more water on your paintbrush to get the color. Okay, we're gonna go in and we're gonna put a line right here for our tree. Don't go all the way to the tip top. Okay, yes, it overlapped our stars and stripes, and just let it be skinny. Don't keep going over and over it, because that will make it too thick. And now I'm gonna go over to this side. So I'm working kind of back and forth. So I'm gonna start on my land, not in the water, but on the land. And I'm gonna put a skinny line and then stop. Don't let yourself keep going over and over it, because it'll get too big. Okay, so there's that line. And get ready, because we're gonna do another shorter one. So stop, so it's a very short line. And then we're gonna do one a little bit shorter that overlaps. So see, they're all different heights. And these again are the tree trunks. And then I'm gonna show you how to paint trees. I'm gonna do another small one there. And maybe one more teeny tiny one right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 tree trunks. This one might get lost, so we'll really maybe just have 5. It depends on how much you like painting trees and how much foliage you put on your trees. So the foliage is the leaves. So again, this is how we do the trees, or how they're located. Notice the heights are up and down. That makes it interesting. And the star of the show is this big tree, but we're going to come back to it in just a minute. We're going to start with the small one. So right here, we're just going to take our brush and tap in a triangle shape on our tree trunk. Remember that skinny line is the tree trunk? So there is just the top of the triangle, and we're just going to keep tapping that into the shape of an evergreen tree. So tapping in triangle shapes. Don't try to make them perfect. You can let some kind of stick out just a little, but this is a tiny area on a very small canvas. So you're just tapping lightly. We're not trying to make perfect circles or anything. We're tapping out the shape of our tree using the tip of our paintbrush, just the tip. Now, if the color runs out, which mine hasn't yet, because it's such a small area that we're painting, you can come all the way down to the landscape there. If your paint runs out, you just simply go back into the black paint. You don't have to get more water. In fact, if you have too much water, it'll spread out your paint and make a big mess. So that's our first tree. So you can see how that looks. Remember, it's a silhouette, and then here again is what we're trying to go for. Okay, it's not really a forest, it's just sort of like an island, kind of. And you want it to be a little bit more of a skinny part at the top, and then tap out your tree triangle shape. It's not exactly a triangle, but you're thinking up like the tip of a triangle and back down like the two of the sides of the triangle. And the tapping motion is something that you can just relax and do because it's very enjoyable and it's not very difficult. Okay, so there's my second tree. If you're still in the first one, you just take your time and do a good job, because I'd rather you take your time than get in a hurry. Okay, the next one, and don't go out too far. You want to keep these shorter ones a little bit smaller. Okay, that one you'll get done really quick because it touches the ground before you know it. Very good. Take your time, remember. Now, you don't want your trees to completely cover up your flag or your stars in the sky. So that's why we did some of these lower. Plus, it makes it more interesting to have different sizes and shapes. If one tree kind of touches another one, that's okay, because that's how trees do, right? You can let it show some of your flag through your tree just a little. And I'm hardly going to my water at all. All right, when I get to this big tree, I'm going to show you again. You might have to get a little more water on your paintbrush, but look, it's not dripping, is it? Because if it drips, you're going to have drips in your painting, or it's going to make your paint go in a place you did not mean for it to. See how I'm just tapping it out, but I'm keeping it kind of in a triangular or a triangle shape. You can let some of the branches overlap. Well, all of mine are overlapping, and you can let some of them stick out just a little bit more. This big tree really shouldn't touch the top or the edge of your canvas. And I told you that one tree might run into another one, and it did. See, there's my short tree and there's my taller tree, and that is okay. Now, if you're worried, there are things you can do to fix paint, but we don't worry about it while it is still wet necessarily, unless you get a drip, and then you're going to use your paper towel to clean up that drip just by blotting your paper towel. See, I use just enough paint that it does not drip even when I tilt it, but I would like for you to not try that and just keep yours flat, because we don't want any mishaps. All right, so now that we have our trees, we're going to create this night sky and the orangey part, because at night we can make this into a sunset. So we're gonna get the color orange on our brush, and we're going to clean our paintbrush, of course, because we were using black, so clean it really good. Then we're gonna go into our paint, and we're gonna add a little bit of orange on top of our red, because our red is gonna kind of mimic or look sort of like a sunset. And so we know that sunsets have what colors in them? That's right. They can be orange and red, and even sometimes pink, fiery colors or hot colors or warm colors, all of those things. Because the sun makes a beautiful sky when there's a sunset. Now, I'm not trying to completely cover over the red. I'm just touching it up a little with some orange to give it that sunset effect. If your orange is looking a little bit dirty, you needed to clean your paintbrush a little bit better. And you can always take a paper towel and just touch it on a spot if you accidentally mess up. Okay, so there's my stripes. I'm not worried about it being exactly 13 or anything. I just wanted you to remember the number. And we don't have our stars yet, and I'm going to be showing you how to do the stars in the sky. Okay, very good. Before we do stars, clean your paintbrush or get your paintbrush wet, and we're going to create a reflection in the water. So we're going to come into the water with red. Yes, we've done 2 colors already in the water, but we're adding red. Now, it can be a little bit different because it's reflecting in the water. So water doesn't always show the exact shade of the color, because the water itself is a reflection of the sky, and it's going to have things in the water that change its color, and many factors make water different colors. And this is at night also. So I'm going to do about 3 stripes in my water. If you have room, you could do 3, or you could maybe just do 2. And if it's blending in with your blue a lot, then we're just going to let that dry. And on camera, I know that looks really dark, but here it is on the other one. It's already dry. Now, if you have the color white, I'm telling 2 different things because there are options. If you have the color white in your paint, then you can take a small tip paintbrush, get white with a clean paintbrush, and you can put little small dots in your sky. Try not to let them touch because you want them to look like stars. Okay, the other option is you can use a paint pen to do stars. And I'm just simply going into my sky area. Remember, that's over here in the top left corner. And I'm just dotting individual dots and not trying to make rows, because the stars in the sky are not in rows. They're scattered naturally in the sky. Okay, and they can stay in that little rectangle or that little square area. And I'm gonna let them come right near my trees, but not go into my trees. Yes, some can be a little bit bigger, and it just looks like a sprinkling of stars. Okay, and then here is this version. You can see it after it dries. Very good. By this time, you're going to need to let it dry. and then we will touch up on it and make some improvements to it next time. I hope you enjoyed painting your patriotic silhouetted nighttime scene. Until next time, happy painting. Bye-bye.